Morning folks, Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. What I thought we'd do this morning is just talk about how to make a quick and simple bushcraft type camp stool. Now, obviously a stump like this one right here is about the best camp stool you can get, or a 5-gallon bucket. But if you're trying to manufacture something where you don't have giant logs the size of this one, you can go out and find yourself a downed tree somewhere. And if you've got a bow saw, it's a little more difficult with this type of saw, but if you've got a good axe and you've got this type saw, you can still do it. But a bow saw and an axe is definitely a better bet. And if I'm bushcrafting, if I'm out woodcrafting, bushcraft, woodcraft are pretty much synonymous terms, one in the UK, one for the US. But if I'm out there doing that and I know I'm going to be manufacturing things off the landscape, I want the best tools for the job. And I'm going to take a large forest axe or a forest fine axe, and I'm going to take a bow saw. And then I'm probably going to have, a Laplander type folding saw as well for cutting small notches. So what we need is, we need 3 legs, first of all, because we're going to make a tripod. And these legs are about the length of my arm. About the length I'd make a rabbit stick is about the same length I'm going to make these logs. And I want these things heavy duty enough to support my weight. They don't necessarily have to be green. They can be dead, but they need to support my weight. So I want them, at least 2 inches in diameter. And then I'm just going to tie a tripod together with this, and then we'll get to the next step. I've showed how to tie tripods in at least 3 videos, I know for sure. So I don't want to have to go through that again on film and bore you guys. So we'll tie this tripod together and we'll go from there. Okay, once you have your tripod built, you're going to tie this tripod a little over halfway up. And that's going to be the top. The bottom of your tripod, where your legs are, you're going to want to point those off. And you can do that either before or after. They don't have to be exactly a point. A wedge is enough. You just want something that's going to be able to stick in the ground, basically, and get a bite when you put it in wet grass and things like that. So a wedge is really enough for that. Okay, now you're going to need a slab like this, and I'm going to show you how to cut one of those in just a minute. Doesn't really have to be this big, just needs to be big enough for your butt to fit it. Not too hard to cut one of these off a down log. I'll show you that in just a second. Take your tripod, spread it out just like this. Make sure that your legs are biting into the ground. If you have to, take your axe and tap them into the ground, but you want one facing forward and you really want 2 facing backwards, kind of like this. And if your tripod's tied good and tight, you're probably going to have to force the issue. I'm going to turn this around because I really want the one in the front facing this direction, like this, and then 2 to the back, like this. And you'll have to finagle this a couple of times, probably the first time you do this, because your tripod should be good and tight. And you're just trying to get that thing to where it won't slip on wet grass, which is what I'm contending with right now, is wet grass. Then you're just going to take your slab and set it in here, and you might have to adjust a little bit, and you're going to set it evenly dispersed on those 3 legs, just like this. So if I built this right, I'm not going to hit the ground when I set my butt on it. It's easy to move around. It's easy to move around camp. Some of the camp chairs and things that I've seen made with tarps and hammocks and all of that business require big tripods and things in there, a pain in the butt to move around camp. This is real easy to move around camp. If you got wet grass, you might have to pound the legs in where you want to sit. But if you do not have wet grass and all you've got is dirt, you're not going to have a problem with that. But it's a nice sturdy camp chair for sitting around the fire. Now, let me show you how to cut this slab. Okay, for sake of this quick stump top demonstration, we're going to say that this log is completely round and it hasn't been cut off. That's no big deal. If it was round here and round here, it would be better. It would be more like the slab we've got on the chair. But the concept is exactly the same. So I've got my raw log that I've cut off laying here, and this is again where the bow saw comes in. This is a lot of work with a Baco Laplander. With a good 30-inch bow saw or 20-inch bow saw, you can make pretty short work of a down tree. especially if you got an axe. So if this is the round side of our tree here, which it is, we want to remove a piece of that a certain length long if we've got a big log. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here with our saw, and again, if I had a bow saw, it would be much better. So let's say we want our seat to be, you know, yay wide for demonstration purposes. I would take my saw and cut down into that log the depth that I want that slab to come off. And again, this may take a few minutes to cut down through here with this saw. So I'll spare you the misery of watching me cut through this thing, because that's probably like watching paint dry. And when I get it cut down, we'll come back. Okay, so once we've got our cut in here, I went and got a bigger saw, I'll tell you that right now. Once we've got our cut made in here, it becomes really simple. All we need to do is split this off the side. So if we've got this log laying on a side, then we're going to hit it with our axe right here and split that plank off. We could always hit it here to split that plank off, or hit it here to split that plank off. But if it's laying on the ground, it's easier to do it from the front, and then you can use a wooden wedge if you need to as well. Now if you had a piece that you'd cut out of a log like this, then you could just stand on its side and split that off with your axe. It should come off pretty easy. Either way, all you're going to have to do is split that off with your axe, and you should get what you're looking for. Of course, you got to hit it in the right spot first. Just like that. And that gives us our slab. And then we can clean that slab up with our knife or whatever the case may be to make our seat. And that's really big enough for a seat right there. The other one I had was just a little bit bigger that I was working with, but this would work just fine. That's big enough for your tail end, no doubt. Guys, I'll tell you what, a camp stool like this can come in very handy if you're out in a base camp situation somewhere and you're trying to make life more comfortable. Tripods are one of the most basic and multifunctional pieces of gear that you can learn to make in woodcrafting and bushcrafting. It's one of the few things that I teach lashing wise in the basic class of the Pathfinder school, because every skill that we teach builds to the next level of training. And I believe that tripods are versatile enough that you need to learn to lash a tripod the correct way right off the bat. They can be used for everything from smoke generators to cooking food and smoking food over the fire to making raised beds and things like that, all the way up to making camp furniture. So a tripod is a very, very versatile item that you should learn how to make the proper way so that you can utilize it for so many different things. It's a very, very versatile piece of gear, guys. I'm Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. I appreciate everything you do for me, for my school, for my family. I thank you for everything you do for my instructors, affiliates, family, and friends. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.